All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be chasing the dragon for hopefully heading into your fantasy semifinals week. Week 15 heading into week 16 out there. This is going to be the reactive fantasy football waiver wire show heading into tomorrow's after waivers. So anyway, right now it does look like Jerome Ford is going to be the main pickup. I'll get into this a little bit. There's actually like I thought last week was a pretty good chasing the dragon week, considering how late in the season is. This is a great chasing the dragon week, considering how late in the season is. With probably the exception, I would say maybe of your wide receivers. Again, it depends on how deep your leagues are out there. So the defenses to be chasing right now, and there are a few changes to this. Let's see, I got week 16 up right now because of some of the injuries that are out there. The Texans right now, they may end up being the number one waiver wire pickup when it comes to like needing a defense. And remember, blocks are a big deal, so know who you're going up against, what they're likely to be picking up out there. If you think they're going to be picking up a defense, if you think they're going to be picking up a quarterback or something like that, that guy should be on your roster. They shouldn't be on their roster. So it's not just about what you need or reactively. It's about what they need reactively out there right now. So with the news that Patrick Mahomes may or may not be missing sometimes, we can upgrade Houston to that streamability range of good matchups, like predictive matchups that are going to be going on out there right now. The Giants and the Falcons, you could roll either one of those both the ways with the quarterback situation for both those teams. Like I don't know how much I'd be wanting to roll the Giants or the Falcons again coming out of all this stuff, but we can talk about if they're available, you're in deep enough leagues, or you want to be blocking based off of your opponent that's out there. Also, the Lions can be rolled against the Bears. The Bears had like yet another not very good matchup or outing right now, going up against the Vikings on Monday night, so that would have been something we chasing. We can talk about the Lions if they're available. Bengals going up against Cleveland. Don't know what's going on with Cleveland. It's either famous Jameis, and you're going to get burned if you rolled the Bengals, so that you might want to have them on your bench instead of having them on your opponent's roster, so you can see them in the fantasy semifinals. The other thing is like if it's DTR, like you're definitely rolling the Bengals at that point. It doesn't matter how bad they are on paper. You can go Tennessee against Anthony Richardson. He's a little bit of a turnover machine if you want to. Also, as bad as the Colts defense are, you're either getting Will Levis, he got benched, or you're getting Mason Rudolph. We'll talk a little bit about Mason Rudolph again here in a second. Eagles have looked better on defense if they're available, even though like the Redskins offense hasn't looked as good. If the Eagles are available, you could roll them. Again, this is more predictive matchups. Cardinals, after what they did to the Patriots, that would be someone you could be looking to roll out there. The Vikings, this would be another priority one. If you have the ability to do this with maybe Geno Smith may be missing sometime, that means Sam Howell. Sam Howell is a kind of a turnover machine and a sack mandate at the same time, going up against Minnesota, who likes to stop the run and blitz. Yes, this would be the week if Minnesota is magically hanging around on your waiver wire to be spending on them. You could roll the Bills going up against Drake May. Drake May, he's rookie. I don't necessarily think this is the best matchup. Again, this is kind of predicting these things. If you can go out there and do it. Again, if you want to get cute, Raiders going up against Jacksonville going up against Raiders. You could go either way on that one if you want to out there. I don't think Cowboys or the Buccaneers are necessarily good matchups. Another bell of the ball will be going out there and spending on if they're not available. I picked these guys up last week. Green Bay going up against the Saints. It doesn't really even matter if what's his face Derek Carr is available this week. They don't have any wide receivers, and Alvin Kamara could be out. We'll talk about that here in a second. That would be probably the one that I would go after first, would be Green Bay. The other one you're looking at, the Vikings, if they're available. That's speculative on Geno Smith being out. And then if you could get the Bengals going up against whatever's going on with Cleveland, the Lions against whatever's going on with the Bears, and then finally the Texans. You could predict that if they are a top 5 defense in fantasy this week because Patrick Mahomes is out. Even if Patrick Mahomes is available because he's going to be more limited, you could be rolling the Texans again. I don't know how much I would love that, but again, this is the speculative nature of fantasy football sometimes, going after and chasing those things. So getting into the running back situations, the Bengals is probably a very good matchup, at least we could talk about. If Jerome Ford goes off on the Bengals, we could say like, yeah, we could predict that ahead of time. Versus some of the other guys I'm going to talk about, Jerome Ford would be a guy. This is with Nick Chubb being done for the year with that foot. There's a couple caveats to this, like don't know who the quarterback's going to be for the Browns. If it's DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, like it's going to be a rough day. It doesn't matter how bad the Bengals are. If it's Jameis Winston, it probably does make Jerome Ford like a boom bust wide receiver or running back 2 this week. Again, like famous Jameis could go out there and just totally have a bad game. He could also light the Bengals up. It could be one of those like 40-40 shootouts, and then you just want pieces of that. That's how I look at it. Now, with Jerome Ford, he's a little bit more of a outside runner, receiving back. He doesn't necessarily run between the tackles super well. I can imagine you're not going to get full bell cow Jerome Ford, even in a good matchup. Pierre Strong might end up creeping into like low level desperation RB2 land, or they could activate Deonta Foreman at that point. But like Jerome Ford's the guy to spend on, probably the guy to be blocking right now. Now, Kendra Miller would be the next guy. Alvin Kamara right now, he's dealing with an abductor, so you can expect that like maybe there's a chance you're going to get like full bell cow Kendra Miller. So when Alvin Kamara went out, Jamal Williams only went up to 11% snaps in this game. So like, yeah, you're definitely blocking. That's the main thing out of this is like, I don't want to see Kendra Miller in my lineup or against in my opponent's lineup this week. Green Bay, not a good matchup. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Even if the quarterback Spencer Rattler, who looked better than Jake Hainer, I don't know if you're necessarily going to love that. You're kind of hoping it's Derek Carr. You're kind of hoping like maybe we get some news about like Chris Olave. Maybe you could get this magic thing all to come together with Kendrick Miller. But you can talk about like maybe like full bell cow Kendrick Miller in a bad offense, in a bad matchup if you need to. Tajay Spears, that would be the other guy. He did have 2 tugs in this game. With Tony Pollard dealing with an ankle, you may get like full bell cow Tajay Spears. This would be another one where like if buts and maybes, Tony Pollard's got to be out. Will Levis, Mason Rudolph may be better than Will Levis. But again, this is a good matchup against the Colts right now. So yeah, you could be chasing some type of full bell cow Tajay Spears. We've been waiting on this for like 2 years at this point. Like you can be talking about that guy if you want to be chasing that. He's more of a receiving back. He's I don't want to say space back. He does run well, is like good contact balance, whatever. But the main thing on this one, like he's the guy that like is not going to give you 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He's going to take it to the house. He's going to have a very good upside week with everything. You can see 6 for 7 for 87 and a touchdown. This was a red zone carry at the end of the game with Tony Pollard out to score on. All right, some of the other guys that I have out there that I want to be talking about from a running back perspective. I bring this up. There's a few of them. Let's see. Audric Estime, he's back on the menu for the Broncos. So you're looking at Jaleel McLaughlin with that shoulder or with that quadriceps. DNP Monday right now. So you are looking at, Never Trust Thursday Night Football with some of these guys. We'll talk more about Never Trust Thursday Night Football when we get to after waivers. But we can talk about Audric Estime being on the menu to be able to get somewhere in the line of like 50% snaps with Javonte Williams. Not necessarily the best situation in the world, as my sleeper goes and gives me a hard time, but we can talk about that with Audric Estime. His snaps did go up. We can talk about that. Chargers not necessarily the best matchup, so like RB2, something like that. Hopefully you get the guy who falls in the end zone. Not necessarily the guy that I want to be chasing. Speaking of the Chargers, we can talk about like Kamani Valdell. So at this point, like I don't think Kamani Valdell should be available in any leagues that are like competitive out there. But the usage flop did happen, 67% snaps in this game with Tampa Bay. So maybe we could talk about that going forward. Not necessarily a great matchup. I imagine Gus Bus is still going to get the red zone work when they get down there. And then finally, I think that's all I got for running backs. I have Jerome Ford down twice on my sheet. If you're wondering, I'll just say this real quick. If you're new to the channel, there is going to be a reason. I'll bring his right here with scores. Certain guys I'm not going to talk about wide receiver land because they should have already been rostered. And our boy Rashad Bateman, he should have been drafted if you've been following the channel. He should have been like rostered early. You want pieces of good offenses. He shouldn't be available. I'm not going to talk about him. Same thing with Jalen McMillan. He should have already been rostered right here. He should have been rostered before last week where he had 2 touchdown catches. I'm not going to talk about him. But again, if he's available, Xavier Worthy, if he's magically available in your league, 81% snaps, 11 targets, you can talk about that, even though Hollywood Brown is supposed to be coming back on that one. So the guys to be looking at, if you need wide receivers this week, this isn't one of those if, buts, and maybes. You can talk about Josh Palmer being the guy. He goes up to 75% snaps in this one. Only 3 for 2 for 10. That's with Ladd back. So again, this is how deep your league needs to go. But again, if you're chasing vacated opportunities, you get a DNP on Monday with Quentin Johnson with an ankle. So you can chase that a little bit. The other thing, and I'll just throw tight ends out there right now. Stone Smart, 67% snap, 6 for 5 for 50, fumble loss. He is a converted quarterback. He is like more of a big wide receiver than he is a tight end in this one. 67% snap. So again, those vacated opportunities, if you want to be guessing on where they're going to go, I would probably say Stone Smart in this one. That means that like you're expecting like Will Disley to get another week out. He had that shoulder injury in that one, so you can kind of go chase that a little bit if you want to. Panthers are next. If I can find them right there. So with Xavier Leggett going out with a groin, and it says likely out week 16. There's a little bit of this is good because David Moore, he went down to 58% snaps. That's with Xavier Leggett going out. So Jalen Coker, like we've been following him for a while. I can imagine he got dropped because of the quad injury that he had. He jumps back up to 87% snaps, 6 for 4 for 110 and touchdown. That long was like a 71 yarder. He took the house most of the yak. But again, if you're looking at like vacated opportunities, he was already the wide receiver 3. Then Xavier Leggett goes down. Now you can start talking about him being the wide receiver 2 in the offense behind Adam Thielen. And then it's just an issue of like not the greatest matchup in the world against Arizona. But, and here's the but, yeah, you could definitely be looking at rolling out week 17 against Tampa Bay at this rate. A couple other ones. This is like deeper league guys if you need to be going after them right now because we got no news on George Pickens right now. So I was a little bit wrong with who I thought was going to get the uptick in snaps. If I can find him. Calvin Austin actually got the uptick in snaps. 81% snaps, 5 for 5 for 65. So this Baltimore game right now, we can start projecting towards a little bit more of a shootout. So wanting pieces of that one. So like, again, George Pickens is out. You want to be probably like thinking about rolling out your Calvin Austin shares or at least blocking that in deeper leagues. And then finally, surprise OBJ got cut by the Dolphins. I don't know how much I really want to be chasing this one, but this is now to the point where like Malik Washington, 59% snap, 6 for 5, 52 in this one. You can start talking about the possibility that you're going to get a Malik Washington spike week 16 or week 17 with the Dolphins that are going to be out there. And a lot of tight ends this week to be looking at that are out there. I already talked about Stone Smart. We can first and foremost talk about like Ben Sinnott if he's available in your league. So right now, Zach Ertz in the concussion protocol, so we can start like maybe talking about like the guys gonna be able to take that. Again, vacated opportunities with Noah Brown going on IR. We could theoretically get Ben Sinnott. I'll talk a little bit more about this on after waivers if you're wondering about that. 54% snaps for Ben Sinnott. Jake Bates or John Bates is more of the blocking tight end. If you're wondering about these two guys, so you could get that number 2. I think there's a chance that it may end up being somebody else. But you can talk about like that vacated opportunity when it goes to like Ben Sinnott in this one. And then it's just an issue of like how good the matchup is. That Philadelphia game is going to be like very difficult to predict, if not negative, when it comes to the Redskins out there. And then this guy, there's a couple I'll actually talk about this one real quick to get him out of the way. Like I would not be chasing Chig with your roster. 63% steps, 10 for 8 for 59, but you know it's there if you want it. The guy to be looking at if you need tight end right now, if I can go find him. I don't know how much I really want to be doing this one. But like we could talk about this, like Brenton Strange, 82% snaps, 12 for 11, 73. I think he had a red zone target. The problem behind this is Vegas and the Titans are going to be like very not good matchups. So this is more of a block. We can talk about him being a top 10, top 5 tight end these next 2 weeks. He could theoretically slot in to be the number 2 in that offense ahead of Parker Washington. But, and here's the but, you're expecting Mac Jones to go out there and light it up against 2 games that are likely going to be ugly at best, or unpredictable to predict when it comes down to it. So like that would be the guy, but he's probably the tight end 1 right now coming off the waiver wires that I would be going after and chasing. I don't know how much I like want to do that. And then Kendre Miller, Tajay Spears, Jerome Ford if they're available, and then probably your best bet is Jalen Coker at wide receiver. Now to finish this all off, if you're still here listening to me, there are a couple streamers that we can talk about. Russ would be on the menu if he's available, because we can talk about this Baltimore game turning into a shootout. And then Mason Rudolph, this is like uglier stuff. Like this is mostly guys I think are going to be available. If Mason Rudolph is the starting quarterback, again, this is what he did in 53% stacks against like the Bengals, who are bad. 21 to 26, 209, 2 touchdowns. That's all you really need. These next 2 weeks on paper, the Colts and the Jags, they should be a little bit of predictive roles. Like those are both 2 bad defenses. And then finally, the last one, like again, you're in deeper leagues, you need to be chasing this stuff. It would be Cooper Rush going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's bad on defense. We can't talk about that. So anyway, that's about all I got. Go out and block your guys more likely than anything else. Probably if you're getting into your semis, you don't need to be rolling guys. You need to be blocking guys. The guys are going to be out there. So anyway, that's what I got. I'll see you guys tomorrow and after waivers.